is General How To, and today we're going to be talking about vacuum repair, specifically how to fix a vacuum. This is a standard upright vacuum, just so happens to be Eureka. It could be any brand of Dyson. What we're going to be talking about is basically an issue that could happen with any vacuum. So I'm going to turn it on, and we're going to go over a few things that could be wrong with it, and specifically how to fix it. Okay. Before I turn it on, I'm going to go over a couple things to check before you start tearing it apart. First thing I would do is I would take this happens to be a bagless, so I would take it, clean it, dump it, make sure there's nothing stuck in the intake tube. Sometimes if you suck up some thread, you'll notice on here there's some thread, but it's definitely not preventing this from spinning. Once I turn it on, you're going to hear there is suction when I vacuum. There's also suction. It's picking up things, but it's not putting the lines in the rug. And I'll tell you guys why it's doing that. So before you start taking things apart, make sure it's clean. There's nothing blocking underneath from sucking, and just visualize. Just take a good look before you start tearing into it. Okay, so it's going to get a little loud. I'm going to turn it on just to show you guys what it's doing and how to fix it. So you'll notice it is sucking, but not spinning. So what would cause the motor to still be sucking but not spinning? Inside there is a motor that spins around. Dyson talks about how good their motor is, how strong it is. I just happened to read that this one's better. It's a great vacuum, but what could be wrong with it? Why is it not spinning? So my guess, I'm going to take off their 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4. They look like they're Phillips. So I'm going to get a screwdriver. Before I start taking it apart, I want to make sure I have a good area to work on. Make sure when you start taking things apart, every screw that you take off, put it in the spot where you're working. Sometimes screws are different. They're shorter, they're longer. You don't want to start mixing it up. So I'm going to get these 4 screws taken off, and we'll go back from there. Alright, so remember before we were talking about verifying that there's nothing clogging it. I just wanted to show you guys, most vacuums, you can just take your fingers and squeeze here to make sure nothing is obstructing the suction from getting up into the bag or tank, whatever you want to call this. Even some vacuums, if you just pull down, you can visualize there's nothing caught in here. So I made sure before I started taking apart that there is nothing in there. Again, make sure it's unplugged. You don't want to start working on anything until it's unplugged. I took my 4 screws out. I verified they're all the same size, so I'm not worried about keeping them separate. I'm going to put all those together so I don't lose it. And now, when we start to work in this, I'm not sure. I've never taken this vacuum apart, so I'm going to lift straight up. There is a switch here. I'm going to put it in the middle, but just make sure when you take it off, don't rotate it. You don't know how it goes. So I'm going to lift straight up. Carefully. Make sure there's nothing underneath. No belts, no wires. Some would have a light over here. If it has a light, be extra careful. Just lift it ever so slightly and make sure if there's a little connecting piece, disconnect it before you just tear it off. So put this aside. And already I see something that shouldn't be. I see there's a belt here and it's broke. It's a very common issue with vacuums. So this means, here's the motor. The motor spins. So what makes the brush spin? On every vacuum there's going to be a belt that wraps around the motor and wraps around the brush and makes it spin. So what you're going to do, take the brush, go online, go on Amazon, Home Depot, Target, Walmart, Lowe's. I happen to get these at Lowe's. So just take the belt with you. This is for a Dirt Devil. This is a Eureka. The bag that said Eureka, the belt was much smaller. So what I did is I just took the broken one and I matched it up. And this was the closest I can get. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to show you guys how to install this. Okay, so before you put the belt on, you're going to take 2 fingers. I usually like to go underneath and push up. Just keep an eye on the orientation of the brush, make sure nothing comes off. Again, anytime you're working on something new, you want to be extra careful. Okay, so 1 and 2. Put this right here. I'm going to slip the belt over the motor first. I'm going to put it right on where it's supposed to be. It's going to be a little tight, especially for a new belt. I'm going to push it in. This is going to be a little tricky. It's going to take some time. Okay. Spin it a little at first to make sure it gets into the right position. You can see it kind of moved. You want it to be nice and level. You don't want it to be sideways. While you have the case open, just take out this, whatever this is. Put it aside. Make sure it's nice and clean. This is all right for now, but you should want to cut this off. But for the sake of the video, I'm going to leave it. Spin it, make sure it's all good. All right, looks good. Nice and tight, not too loose. This is still in the center. Grab your piece. If you have any electric, make sure you connect it. And just same way you took it off, you're going to put it back. All right, I'm going to get these 4 screws tightened, not too tight, not too loose, and then we're going to fire it up, see how it goes. Verified all the screws are tight. Now we can plug it in. We're going to turn it on. Again, it's going to get loud, but I'm just going to verify that the brush is spinning. So that's it. I just wanted to show you guys. Today, back in the day, there used to be a lot of repair stores, vacuum, TV. Nowadays, everything is just throw it away. Most people, when their vacuum stops working, they go on Amazon, they see, oh, it's $80, $90 when we go to Home Depot, Lowe's, buy a new vacuum. Really, most of the times it's just a belt. It's just something clogged in here, something stuck in here, preventing it from spinning. The motors, they really last a long time, probably the life of the vacuum, so it's always going to be the cheap rubber belt before it ends up being a motor. They're built pretty well, so I hope this video helps you guys. Any issues, comment down below. Maybe I could help you out. Subscribe.